Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, last time we had discussed about the number systems, what kind of operations, how the ones complement, twos complement, the comparisons. We had seen that generally we like to work with the twos complement because then even when we are doing subtraction, we are doing addition. So the number of types of operations reduce, and therefore when we are building the microprocessor, the complexity of the system decreases. That means if you are having one addition logic, that can do subtraction also. So multiplication is suppose many times addition. So maybe one circuit of addition, one addition, a circuit is capable of doing addition, can do multiple kinds of operation, and hence the number of the density of integration, be it transistors, be it the FET dependent circuitry, whatever it is, I mean CMOS logic you are using, or you are using a transistor to design, whatever you are using, your density of integration is reducing if you are able to use the same circuit for different kinds of purposes. So I'll start this presentation. I'll be presenting this screen now. Okay. So last time you're able to see, right, this screen. Okay. So in the last class we had basically discussed okay, after generally after the classes, I will be sharing the slides, and you will have it as a reference point. But then you have to study it, do your studies yourself, so that you can do well. Okay, so we had seen how we are doing this memory mapping. We had seen that if we had like we are able to address 2 to the power 16, that is 64 kilobyte of memory is addressable by the 8085 microprocessor, but then we don't need that kind of memory. We need only we have memory chips which are of the size 2 kilobyte and 2k into 4 bit. That is the 4 bit is the word size, and we have 8 such memories. And how we are going to put these memories, connect these memories, because the memory is lying external to the CPU unit. So how we are going to connect, so that our word size is a 8-bit word, and then we are having 4 such sets which are operating parallel, like 1 and 2 is one set, then 3 and 4 is one set, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had seen how what kind of logic we are giving to this address bits from A0 to A15, and the intricacies of how we were designing we have discussed in the last class. So what I have done is I have taken a small numerical problem, small problem, so that you can So rest assured, in your exam, you will have one question like this, where you will have to do solve some kind of problem which is related to this. So this problem says that explain the memory addressing range of 1K, that is 1024 into 8, that is your memory size, and explain the change in the address lines if the hardware of the CS line is to be modified. Okay. So here we had seen that we had taken till A11, and then A12, A13. We had seen for A1300, we are addressing 1 and 2. For A12, 1, A13, 0, we are addressing in that situation, we are addressing 3 and 4. For 1, 0, we are addressing 5, 6. For 1, we are addressing 7, 8. So your chip select, which chip will be selected, will depend on the logic of A12 and A13. That is what we had seen. So that is what they're asking. Explain the changes in the address lines if the hardware of the chip select is to be modified. Then what is the memory range of the memory we will address. So quickly, if we see that we have this memory is 1024 into 8. So we will need address line A0 to A10. 2 to the, because 2 to the power 10 is equal to how much? 2 to the power 10?
1024.
Yes, 1024. So we will be able to address the whole range of memory with address line from A0, 10 address line A0 to A9, sorry, A0 to A9. Okay. So then let us reverse it. Let us make it 9 and let us make it 0. So if from 00 to 11, that is the memory range that I am addressing. Okay. Now I have lines that is A10, A10, A11, A12 till up till A15. Okay. I'm having till A15 here. So then this will enable, this is the hardware part, from here, A10 to A15. I will have to give different combinations of this A10 to A15 to get the chip select. And for the, what will be the address? This will be 000000H in hexadecimal. Okay. And if we are having everything 0, from this also 0, then A0 to AH we are having. And if we put 1 here and rest 0, then or 1 0, let us put 1 0 here, then we will have a memory location of how much? 1 2 3 4, that is F, then 5 6 7 8 F, 9 10 is 3 0. Okay, so this will be the range of memory that I can address. Okay, if I'm having this from 0 to 9, from 0000 to 1111, this is the range of the memory that I can address. So I will have my, this is my memory. Okay, this is my memory. This is my 1024. This is my 1024 registers, the memory locations that I have. Okay. And I have my address line. I will have my address line here. This is my address line, A0 to A9. Okay, this much I have. And so depending upon what the 0 and 1 value, the range of the memory location is 000H to 03FFH. Now for the rest of the line, I will build a decoder. Okay, I have a decoder. So I can have a decoder here. Decoder I will have, but this decoder digitally if I am putting, then how I will put? I will put it like this. In the logic system, I will put a gate. I will put a NAND gate here. Okay, and I will connect this to the, this is the your chip select. Chip select. So chip select, if it is like this, then it is a logic. Okay, if it is, then it is a low enabled logic. That means when it is 0, then the chip is selected, and if the bar is not there, if it is high, then it is selected. And what I will do here, I will connect the other address lines here. Like I will put a low. If it is low only, then I will select. So, but so I will put something like this. So I will give a bubbled this thing. So if it is 1, then it will become all 0. And if it is 0, then it will become 1. So this, what is happening to this logic? You solve yourself. These are, you have studied A10 to A15. I will put A15. Okay. So then my this, all the other lines are here. So then my this chip will be selected. If all are 0. So say, if I have A10 to A15, okay, so A10, A11, and then, so if all are 0, say, then I am selecting this chip. But if all are 1, if this is 1, this is 0, then what will happen? Then the hardware will be designed differently, and it will select some other chip. Maybe it will select another chip that is lying here. Okay, that line will go to some other chip here. So it will select another chip if I'm changing the hardware. If I'm if I'm putting the address lines like this, if I've given one like this and the rest like this, say, then what will happen? Then the logic system that I've designed is different now, because this input is becoming different. So then I can select another chip depending upon the output probably. Okay, so that is how your by combining the higher orders and low orders address line, we can specify the complete memory address, and we can also enable which chip I'm selecting. So that is what they're asking. Explain the changes in the address lines if the hardware of the chip select line is modified. So this is your chip select line. Okay, when the output of this gate, this is your chip select line. So by changing what is the logic of A10 to A15, you can change the addresses that you are the memory addresses that you are going to connect to, and you can change the range of the memory that you are addressing. Here you are addressing 0000H to 03FFH for all 0, A10 to A15. If everything is 0, then this is the memory range that you are addressing for this kind of hardware design. But if you change, say if you are making it 1, I will save this and go to the next this thing. Okay, just hold on. So I have A0 to A9, and then A10, A11. Okay, let us see with only these two. Rest you can understand yourself. Okay, so if we were having all zeros and 0, 0, then we were addressing 0, 0, 0, 0, H to, if we are having 0, 0, 1, 1, all are ones here, okay. Then we were addressing 03 FFH. Now, what will be the memory location if I have 0, 1 and 0? Then what will be the memory location here? For all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, 9, 10, 11. 9, 10, 11. So this will be 4, right? Correct? 9, 10, 11. 4 and 0, H. Okay. And here we were having 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 1, all ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is F. 6, 7, 8 is F. 9 is 0. What will be the range of memory? Tell me. 1, 2, 3, 4 F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is F. 9, 10, 11. This will be 5. So it will become 0, 5 to H. So see, your memory range is changing by how you are designing the hardware. So your chip select, that is the CS is the chip select. So that chip select will change, right? So that how you are selecting the chip, which memory chip you are selecting will depend on the design of the hardware. So this is what we wanted to discuss. Now we will go to the 8085 microprocessor. Okay, let us see a little bit of the 8085 microprocessor. So as we know, 8085 microprocessor, it is a 8-bit microprocessor. That means the word size of the microprocessor is 8. So at one time it can simultaneously process 8-bit word size. And then how many instructions are possible with this microprocessor? Because it is a 8-bit word size, 2 to the power 8 instructions, that is 256 instructions are possible. But the 8085 will use a total of 246 patterns, that is to form 74 instruction set. What is instruction set? We will see in this class hopefully. And these patterns of the instructions are all in hexadecimal. So we are always writing a H after the 0000H or FFH. So that is in the hexadecimal pattern. So your 0011 and 1100, if that is your 8-bit word, then it is a 3C H. Okay. In hexadecimal. It is a 3C in hexadecimal. So that is how the numbers are used in the 8085 microprocessor. Then next. This microprocessor will be able to store a 8-bit. Yes.
Ma'am, someone wants to join class.
Okay. So this microprocessor wants to store a 8-bit data. It wants to perform all arithmetic and logic operations. And when it is performing the arithmetic and logic operation, the microprocessor will also want to test for conditions. So as you all are CSE students, so you know that for executing any program, we have a sequence and we execute the sequence
Ma'am, your voice is breaking. You were not audible. Ma'am, you were not audible.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Your presentation also stopped.
So these are some of the registers that are available with the microprocessor. What happens? This is an accumulator. The first that we see is an accumulator. This accumulator is very important. We will see that this accumulator is very of very importance. Okay, accumulator. We will see what the accumulator does. Then there are some flags. What do these flags do? They test for conditions. They test for conditions. Like they will test. Is there a carry bit? If there is a carry bit, there is a register called carry, that will set, okay, to 1. If there is no carry, then it will reset. We will see about that. It will check, okay, is it a positive number, is it a negative number? So if again there is a sign register in this flags is a register which is specifically assigned for this sign purpose, a register that is assigned specifically for the carry purpose. Okay, so there are 5 such registers, and these registers test for the different kinds of conditions of the and addition, subtractions, or the logic operations, or any other program that is being executed by the microprocessor. For execution of the program that we will write, these conditions are tested, and accordingly the decisions are taken. Then we see there is 6 registers: B, C, D, E, H, and L. Okay, they are all 8-bit registers. All are 8-bit registers. All registers are 8-bit registers. But BC, DE, and HL, they behave a register pair. Okay, if I have to address a register pair, then I have to address either BC or DE or HL. I cannot address B and E as a register pair or H and C as a register pair. No, that is not allowed. If for some operation I want a register pair that is 16-bit, I want to do some work, then I have to address BC or DE or HL. So these are the register pairs that are available with the microprocessor. Then there is something called a program counter. Okay, there is something called a program counter. So what does this program counter do? It will point to the memory location. It will point to the memory location from where the next instruction is to be executed. Instruction is to be executed. It will point to that memory location. Okay, so because it is pointing to the memory location, it is a 16-bit register. The program counter is a 16-bit register, and it will point to the sequence. There is a sequence of operation. So the program counter will tell, okay, now you need to go to that memory location, either to get the some kind of a data, or the instruction for the execution of the next step is written in that memory location. So please go to that memory location and bring the either the instruction or the data for the processing of the program that is written there. Then another is a stack pointer. Another this is also a 16-bit register. Okay, there are 16 flip-flops here. So they also point to the memory. Okay, they also point to the memory. Okay, now what happens is we have the memory is there. There is a memory, and we had seen that it is like a book rack. Okay, it is like a book rack, and we had assumed that every rack is a memory location. Every rack is a separate memory location. So whenever I'm writing a program, first what I will do is I will select the range of memory. I will select the range of memory from where I will store either my instruction or where the result of the execution of the program will be stored. So I will store. So stack pointer will say, okay, my memory range starts from FF, I start, and then I come downwards. I come FF, E. Okay, then I come downward. So from there, after execution of each program, the stack pointer will point to a different memory location. Okay, now I need to go to that memory location to store my operation. Okay, my program is all stored from this much to, and my the result of my operation will also be stored somewhere there. So that is the function of the stack pointer. The stack pointer will point out to those locations where we need to do the job. Okay, so let us see what it is saying. It is saying that the registers of 8085. The 8085 have 6 general purpose registers to store 8-bit data during the program execution. So because the word size is 8-bit, we are always storing a 8-bit data. And there are 6 general purpose registers to do so. What are these? These are B, C, D, E, H, and L, like we discussed. So those are the general purpose registers. and they can be combined as registered pair of BC, DE and HL to perform some 16-bit operation. These are the 6 BC, DE, HL registers that we spoke about. Then there is the program counter. This is a 16-bit register sequencing the execution of the instruction. So there is a sequence of instruction that needs to be carried out. So the program counter is responsible for that. It is a memory pointer. It points to the memory location. That is why it is a 16-bit register. Okay, the memory locations have 16-bit addresses, and that is why it is a 16-bit register. The function of the program counter is to point to the memory address of the next instruction to be executed. All the instructions are also stored in the memory. All the data can come from your input-output device. From your keyboard, you can give a input of a data, okay? But that data will go and it will be stored somewhere. Either you will store it in your general purpose registers of BC, DE, HL, or you will store it in the memory location. Somewhere you have to store. So this program counter will keep a count of that. Where is what? Okay. And it will point to the memory location where I need to go, where the microprocessor needs to go. Otherwise, the microprocessor will get lost. Which memory location should I go? It has 64 kilobyte of memory addresses from where it has to pick up the data. The function of the program counter is to point to the memory address of the next instruction. And when an opcode is being fetched, opcode is the operation code. We will just see after some time what is an opcode. It is being fetched, the program counter is incremented to 1 point to the next memory location. Okay, so say now the instruction says, okay, I know the memory location, it is say 2050. Okay, that is my memory location. So in the first instruction, the microprocessor, the program counter will say, okay, now go to 2050. Okay, so all control signals, everything, whatever has to be done for that particular step will be done. And at 2050, they will go. They will see that in 2050, what is stored? It is stored that add. Okay, addition command is stored. So addition, that command will come out. So next cycle is what? I have to add. Okay, so that addition command is also stored in that 2050 location. So first is the opcode. This add or rotate or compare or anything, move, in any such instruction is the operation code where we are telling the microprocessor what to do. Okay, so now next step is it will add. So what will it add is the next step. So once that opcode is fetched, the program counter will go to the next memory location because that is where the data is stored, probably. Okay, you can store the data somewhere else also. So it will go to that memory location and say, okay, now the data is in this memory location. The program counter will go to the next memory location. So now we also saw there is a stack pointer. This is a 16-bit register used as a memory pointer. It points to a memory location in the read-write memory called the stack. The beginning of the stack is defined by loading a 6-bit address to the stack pointer. So I will say, okay, I want this memory location from say FFFF, okay, and then I will start my program from that particular memory location. So whatever operations have to be done, whatever instruction or data has to be stored will start from that memory location. And the stack pointer does exactly that. Okay, then we also saw here that there were some flags here. Okay, these are the flags here. So this flag is shown here. Okay, this flag is shown here. Just let me see. Okay, so these flag registers are also shown here. Like I said, there are flag registers. So like this flag register is S is for S is sign, Z is 0, AC is auxiliary carry, P is parity, and CY is carry. So these are the conditions for which it will check. Okay, let me check what conditions of these registers. Okay, so this sign flag will be set if D7 is 1. If D7 is equal to 1, then sign flag is set, or else it is reset. Okay, so if it is 0, it will reset. If it is 1, in your 8-bit word, if your D7, D0 to D7, your data line is from D0 to D7. Okay, you are having D0, D1, okay, D2. So if this D7 is 1 data, your 8-bit data line, then it is set, or else it is reset. Then there is a 0. This is the 0. Okay, what is the 0? If the result is 0, then it is set. The result of operation is 0. If result is 0, if the result of any operation is 0, then it is set. Else it is reset. So by seeing this 0 flag here in this amongst these registers, we can understand, okay, what is the result of my operation, whatever operation has been carried out, what is the this thing, auxiliary carry. Okay, this is, say, if the D3 bit is 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, if the D3 bit is 1, then this is set. If the D3, if there is an auxiliary carry, okay, we are adding 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What are D0 to D7?
These are your words, 8-bit word.
8-bit words. Okay.
Your 8-bit word size, no? D, data. D is for data. Okay, D is for data.
And ma'am, B0 to B7?
What?
B0 to B7?
There is no B here. This is only data. B.
On the flag part.
Okay. This is, I have copied it from some. These are all D.
Okay.
These are all byte. These are, I think they have written for B0 to B7. I have just taken it from this net and I just pasted for my convenience. Okay. These are the bit 0, bit 1 they have written. Okay. So this is if auxiliary carry AC, auxiliary carry. So you are adding this and you have this 1, 1, 1, 1. So 0, 0, 0, 0. So if you are carrying this operation, then here in the D3 bit, there will be a carry. If you do this operation, there will be a carry here for this bit here, D3 bit. So then this will be set, or else it will be reset. But this is not much used. In some places we need to see if the D3 bit is having a carry or not, because this carry is anyway passed to the D4 bit and the operation is carried out. You are clear about this D3? Then there is a carry. If there is a carry, if a carry is generated, if say for any arithmetic operation, if there is a carry, then this is set. This flag is, or else it is reset. So we had discussed then what will happen if there is a carry bit that I am generating, because then my word size is becoming 0. So it will indicate in this flag register, okay, there is a carry bit here. So accordingly, the next process will take place, right? Last class we discussed, somebody has asked also, where does this carry go? So there are flags that will show these different conditions, and based on these conditions, the execution of the operation will take place in the microprocessor. Then there is a parity bit, P. Parity is what? If there is even number of ones, even number of ones, then it is set. Else reset. If there is odd number of ones, it is reset. That means your 8-bit word. So say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in this case, it will be reset. But the second is 1, 2, 3, 4. Here the parity is even. So this will be set. The result, we have taken 2 bits, 8 bits, and we have added. If the result has a even number of ones, okay, then this parity flag will be set. If the result has odd number of ones, then this parity flag will be reset. Okay, so these are the flag registers.
Ma'am, in AC it should be D4, right?
Why should it? It is D0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, D4. We have written
D0, 1,
D3.
2,
If
3, 4.
D3 equals to 1, then set then
No, if not D3 is equal to 1. You are adding. That's what you are doing.
yeah, that's what's written there. That's why I was.
Where it is written? Auxiliary carry.
Yes.
If there is a carry after D3 is equal to 1, what? I'm not writing the whole sentence. If there is a carry, if there is a carry after the operation of the D3 bit, if there is a carry, if there is a carry, so you are doing an operation, okay, and here after the D3 bit there is a carry, so then it will be set or it will not be reset. That is why I gave this example. In this example, D0, D1, D2, D3. Okay, D0, D1, D2, D3. Okay, then D4, D5, D6, D7 data. Okay, so if we are doing this operation, what is happening? There is a carry bit that is being generated here. There is a carry here, carry after the D3. Okay, so when there is a carry after the D3, then this auxiliary carry flag is set. If there is no, say if the operation is like this 0, 1, 1, 1, this is 0, 0, 0, 1 and 0, 0, 0, 1 and this is 0, 1, 1, 1. Then in that case, in this operation here, there is no carry. So then this will be reset because there is no carry here. This carry will go to this place when we are doing the addition. But there is a provision of an auxiliary carry in the microprocessor which checks the carry condition after the D3 bit. Okay, this is not a, this is used internally by the microprocessor for all these BCD operations. Otherwise, this is not something that we are using. Generally, we are not using this condition. The microprocessor uses its internal condition with this flag register. It just wants to check, okay, wait, is there something? Is there something? So it is, am I clear with this example and this example, how the auxiliary carry is generated?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So then there is a program counter and the stack pointer. So this part is pretty clear, right? This serials. Okay, now let us see what is there. Okay, so this is what they are saying. The conditions that I have just discussed, this is what they're saying. Now we will see the 8085. This is the this is the 8085 The pins are visible. Can you see it properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hopefully. If I go to draw, this space is also very little. Had it been a blackboard, it would have been easier for me to draw. And we need to understand also. So I thought this will be one of the best ways to, take it from the net and try to paste it and do. So like we see, okay. So if when we go see the architecture of 8085, what we see is that it is a 8-bit general purpose microprocessor. Okay, it has a memory of 64 using the 16-bit address lines. There are 40 pins, and this is a 5-volt supply, and there is a 3 megahertz clock. Okay, so what I have pasted in the paint is the 40 pin, your pin diagram of the microprocessor. Okay, so we will see what kind of signals are there. So the microprocessor, what kind of operations does the microprocessor function? So the microprocessor functions some programs that are initiated by the microprocessor. Okay, it will try to exchange some information with a peripheral. It is a microprocessor initiated operation. Then in some internal operations are there, like it will want to add, and there is peripheral operation. There are some peripherals that will want to communicate with the microprocessor, like if I am clicking a mouse. Okay, so this is a peripheral initiated. So the microprocessor is not aware that the or the CPU of the computer is not aware when I will click the mouse. Okay, so whenever I click the mouse, then the CPU comes to know, okay, my mouse has been clicked. So this is a peripheral initiated, externally initiated, not expected by this processing unit, but it has come from some. Every time I touch the mouse, so they know, okay, some mouse is being touched. My mouse will say, now listen to me. Okay, so the mouse will try to interrupt the operation. Whatever the microprocessor was doing till now, the mouse will try to interrupt that operation, and we will want the system is an externally initiated operation. Okay, in the 8085 can be classified into the address bus, the power supply and frequency signal, externally initiated signal, and serial input-output ports. So whatever signals for doing these operations, this microprocessor initiated operation, internal operation, and peripheral operation, the signals available or the pins amongst those 40 pins of the microprocessor, all this type of operation can be done by the microprocessor. So there is an address bus in those 80 pins. There is a data bus. Okay, not one address bus. There are 16 address buses. There are 8 database buses in those 40 pins. Then there are pins that give the control and the status signal. There are pins that will give the power supply and frequency signals. Again, there are pins that will give externally initiated signal, and also there are 2 ports for the serial input-output ports. That means serial input-output ports mean 8-bit microprocessor, 8-bit parallelly we are processing. In serial input-output port, 1 bit after the other will go. So it is a serial input-output port. So all these operations has to happen from those 40 pins that are available with us. We cannot have any extra pin to do these operations. So now there is an address bus. Okay, just let us go through and then we will see these are. There is something called the address bus. We are seeing that we have 16 address lines, A0 to A15 in the 8085 microprocessor, and hence 2 to the power 16 memory locations. So there are address buses A0 to A15. They are always written as A0 to A15. These address buses are unidirectional. That means the bits will flow in one direction from the microprocessor unit to peripheral device. The address will then the microprocessor uses the data bus to perform the second function. That is, it will transfer the binary information. First, it will identify which location by the address bus. Second, from the data bus, it will transfer the binary information. The 8-bit data lines enable the microprocessor unit to manipulate 8-bit data ranging from 00 to FF. That is 256 numbers. It is able to manipulate the 8-bit data. Okay. And the largest number that can appear in the data bus is 1111 in binary. In hexadecimal, it is FF. That data can appear. Third is the control bus. This is the third kind of bus. We had discussed these 3 buses in the last class. The control bus will carry all the synchronization signals and provide the timing signals. Okay. So the microprocessor unit will generate the control signals for every operation. I want to do addition operation. I will know. Like we will see when we are discussing the 40 pin diagram, then we will see what are the control signals that are available. I want to do a read operation, then there is a read signal available with me. So I will want to read, but then from where do I want to read? I want to read it from the memory location, or I want to read from the input output. So there is another signal that will help me identify whether this is a memory operation, memory read operation, or it is an input output read operation. Similarly, I have a control signal that tells me it is write operation. So I want to write. So I want to write in the memory, or I want to write in the input output device. So another signal, that same, input output memory. So is it an input output operation or is it a memory operation? That control line will decide for me. Okay. And along with it, if it is a write, then I know, okay, memory write. Now I have to go to the memory and write. Where in the memory I will write? My pulses will say where I need to go and write in that memory. value of the microprocessor unit, MPU. Okay, what happens? This register is used to store 8-bit data and perform arithmetic and logic operations. The result of the operation is also stored in the accumulator. So that means if I'm doing operation, okay, I'm doing an addition operation. So one is in my memory location and the other is in accumulator. So these two will be added. Okay, this is a okay operation. But from memory to register B, this operation cannot take place. Register B and accumulator, this operation can take place. Okay, so this accumulator is very important. It is a part of the arithmetic logic unit, and all the operations that take place, accumulator is part of that. And the result is also stored in the accumulator. Okay, this is of utmost importance. So again, if we are summarizing the whole thing, then how does it come? It comes that the address bus is unidirectional. It will, and what is its role? It will identify the memory location or identify the peripheral. Data bus is there. The data bus is bidirectional. It will transfer the data. The control bus is there, which will give the control and the timing signal, synchronizing signal, and it will give the control signal. Now, the address bus is doing the first step. It is identifying the peripheral. Data bus is doing this second step. It is carrying the data bits to the places. Then sequencing of the operation is done by the program counter. It is pointing. We have just seen that if any program is to be sequenced, the program counter is sequencing the program. This stack pointer is pointing out to the memory location wherever the data has to be taken from or the data has to be stored. So all these together will perform the operation. Now we will see the pin diagram. Okay, now we saw that there is a lot of this thing. So here the first thing you see, you take a see, this is AD0 to AD7. So this is AD0 to AD7. Sometimes it acts as address bus, and sometimes it acts as the data bus. Okay, this is the low order address bus. This is the low order address bus. So this is multiplexed with the data bus. So when the microprocessor is sending the address, then returning data. It is just sending the address. Okay, so then it needs to change to sending the data. Then these AD0 to AD7 in the first instance was an address bus. In the second instance, it will become a data bus. So these are multiplexed. Okay, multiplexed. Address and data buses are multiplexed here. And then A15 to A8. These are the higher order address buses. These are the higher order address buses. They are always address bus. This A8 to A15 are always address bus. But AD0 to AD7, sometimes these are address buses, sometimes these are data buses. So I should have some signal that will tell me whether it is an address bus or a data bus, right? So we will see what signal it is. VCC, this is your supply, plus 5 volt, goes to VCC. Okay, and here is VSS, it will come to the ground. This is your ground, VCC and VSS. Okay, this is your ground. Then this is X1 and X2. Here I will connect a crystal. This is a X1, X2. It can be, I can connect a crystal, or I can connect a LC circuit or some RC circuit. I need to connect because I need to have the frequency. We saw, what did we see? Let me go back. We saw that this is a 40 pin 5 volt 3 megahertz clock supply. So where it is coming? It is coming from this this crystal that we are putting here. We can put a crystal, we can put a LC or a RC circuit. So if I want a 3 megahertz frequency, actually the system will divide it by 2. So the crystal should generate a 6 megahertz frequency. For a clock of 3 megahertz, for a clock of 3 megahertz, I need a system. The 6 megahertz should be generated by the system. So it will become.
Sorry for interrupt you. Ma'am, we have another class from 11:40.
No, I have 2 classes today. You ask your CR. This is the only class I have. So we have to.
Check the link from 10:30 to 11:30.
That is one class. I have 2 classes. If I don't take 2 classes in a week, I will not be able to finish your course. The Wednesday only I have 2 classes.
And then you have to start from 10 to 11:40.
10 to 11:40, but you have a library class, right? Last time I told you that I will take that class. You don't have anything in your routine from 11:40. So I will have to continue. I cannot leave you at 11:40 because this is a huge course and I have not even covered half. So I need another 1 hour to cover it. When I'm sending you the class, Rahul, you should always ask what is the class time. You cannot schedule class times like this because you know in the timetable I need 2 classes. I had spoken to you in the last class. My class, if it goes, then it will stay like that. I cannot help it. This 12, 10, 12, 15 till that much I need that class timing. Otherwise, how will I finish? You have to tell me beforehand, no, that you have scheduled another class. You do in your timetable, you don't have any class. Last time, see, once we speak, then that means it stands good for the semester. If there is some problem that is arising, you have to tell me. If some sir or ma'am, they want to take the class, there is something, you have to tell me accordingly. Then I will try to reschedule or do something. Otherwise, how do I know that you are scheduling your classes? Okay, please ask 10-15 minutes from sir or ma'am. Let us just finish what we are doing. If I leave like this, nothing happened today. Okay. 1 hour class is not sufficient. Wednesday, I will take class from 10:30 to 12:30. That is what I understand. If there is any issue, please discuss with me beforehand. Because there are a lot of things as we go into this, you will understand there are so many things, it will take huge amount of time. If you want to finish it, then otherwise it is okay. So there is a 3 megahertz clock signal. I will finish this what I am doing and then only I will leave because otherwise again I'll have to start from here next class.
Okay.
So this is a frequency LC. This has to be given. Now see, now these are the data buses and the address buses. We have discussed the power supply. We have discussed the data and the address buses. Second, we have discussed the power supply and clock frequency. Third, now we need to see what are the control and the status signal. This is control and status signal. Okay. Now we will see the control and status signal. Here you see this is ALE. This is address, latch, enable. What does this do? This AD0 to AD7. This signal will tell me whether it is an address bus or whether it is a data bus. Okay, so because I am multiplexing this AD0 to AD7, this will become like this. Then there is a read and a write. Okay, we just discussed these two are the control signals. We will decide whether it is a read or a write. See, there is a bar. That means low. When it is low, then the read will be performed. Otherwise, read will not be performed, read action. Write also is a bar. Okay. Then S0 and S0 and S1. These two are status signal. So its status, whether it is 0 or 1, will say various things about the operation that goes on. But when we are doing small programs, then S0 and S1 generally doesn't matter. Then, like I said, there is an input, output, or memory. This will decide whether this is an input out operation.
Signal too? Can you repeat again?
Yes.
About status signal.
Okay, S1 and S0. These are two signals. Okay, this gives the status of execution of the program at various levels. But when we are dealing with smaller programs, okay, like what you will deal with in this class, then S0 and S1, you will see they're always 0, 0. We will not see any status change there. But if there are bigger programs, then these status signals or more complicated operations, then these status signals will show the status of various kinds of operation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Then this is the input, output, and memory. Just 5 minutes you ask from the sir who is taking the class. See, ma'am has requested 5 minutes if required. Okay, input, output, or memory. So it will decide whether my operation is input, output, or memory. Okay. Then there are some signals which are externally initiated signals. 4. We said that, okay, externally initiated signal. These are externally initiated signal. So you see here, trap, RST, RST 6.5, RST 5.5. Okay, then hold, this, ready. These are all externally initiated signal. These are all externally initiated signal. So what is this? This trap, these are called interrupts. So when some peripheral wants to communicate, okay, it is calculating something, it has finished calculating. So it wants to tell this MPU, I finished calculating, now you have to take my result. So it will interrupt. It will say, okay, now I will interrupt. And the microprocessor unit has to listen to it. Okay, in this, there is priority. Now what happens if all these interrupt together? Then how will it happen? Then first priority is with trap. Then RST 7.5, then RST 6.5, RST 5.5. Okay, there is priority here. There is one, this inter. This is also an interrupt signal. But if it is interrupting with interrupt, then it can be said, okay, just hold on. I will just finish what I'm doing and then I will listen to you. Then this is INTA. This is interrupt acknowledge. Interrupt acknowledge. Okay, this is interrupt acknowledge. So once the microprocessor, the external device is giving an interrupt request, then the microprocessor is saying, okay, interrupt acknowledged. I acknowledge that you have sent me an interrupt. Okay, that is the interrupt acknowledge request. Then hold. Hold is another interrupt. But it is used in case of direct memory access. These are different situations that come during the operation. So hold is used in case of direct memory access. Only when this situation is there, then hold is used. Okay. Then ready. Ready. Where was ready? Ready. Ready is another. So what is this ready? If there is a slow peripheral, it is operating at a slower speed. Slow peripheral means, and that slow peripheral has now finished its operation. So now it is telling the microprocessor, okay, I'm ready. So that ready signal is given here. Okay. So these are all interrupt signals. Okay, that is the externally initiated signal. Second, and then there is a reset in and reset out. This is your reset in and this is your reset out. Reset out, and there is another reset in. This is another reset in. So these are for resetting the microprocessor. Reset in is when the signal of the program counter is set to 0. And the buses are and the microprocessor unit is reset. Okay, if you want to reset the microprocessor, stop operation, start from the beginning, then these reset in, reset out pins are used. Okay, and here these are serial input pins. Serial input output we had seen. This is the serial SOD and SID. These are the two serial input output pins. So this is used for the serial operation. So these are all the 40 pins. Okay, and every pin has one operation. You need to understand every pin and you need to understand the operation of every pin. What I said, that should be, you should be able to say it like that or better than that if possible. Okay, so that is expected of you. But then we have to learn a lot, and 2 hours class I'm having. And Rahul, in case there you are having any problem, if somebody else wants the class, please let me know beforehand, and don't schedule your classes like this. Okay, you can go and
Okay, ma'am.
yeah, you can go and finish your class. Thank you.